What is up, guys? Welcome back to CageChat MMA. We're here for, of course, the top 5 UFC fighters of 2020. Obviously, it was a fantastic year, and we was given such a plethora of fights. I think 450 odd fights, closing out 2020 after December 19th. And boy, we had some absolute belters, and some breaking out, some making their name, and obviously some keeping their status at the very top. Of course, the likes of the Khabibs, your Valentina Shevchenko, Amanda Nunes, and obviously Israel Adesanya. But this is the top 5 fighters of the past 12 months, of course, albeit we had a break in April. But, we have to give out our plaudits to UFC and Dana White and everyone who was able to keep the MMA side of sports going from April. And, of course, we had an event every week, apart from maybe 1 or 2 weeks going into the new year. So, yes, going in at number 5, of course, is a man who made his name in July, of course, Khamzat Chimaev. He came in, made his debut on Fight Island in July at 9-0, and obviously he defeated John Phillips in a very impressive fashion, and he really put his name on the map, of course, drawing comparisons to the likes of Khabib Nurmagomedov with his abilities to call out fighters, the whole smash sort of the mantra. He's come out fighting anyone, anywhere, albeit he's not fought Leon Edwards yet. We're going to come to that later down the line. But the fact that he came out, he went over to Abu Dhabi and he stayed there and came back 10 days later to fight. Obviously, Rhys McKee was making his debut at 170. The previous fight on his UFC debut for Hamza Chimaev was 185. Defeated John Phillips, and of course he put Rhys McKee in what was quite a devastating debut for Rhys McKee. Obviously, the former Cage Warriors champion. He's very highly touted around Europe and around the world. But Hamza Chimaev put him away with relative ease, and it's thrown him into the spark of where does he lie in this welterweight division. Obviously, he's now ranked at 15th, despite only having one fight. But I think the pull and drag he has now with his name, means he has to be in that category and that top 15. Obviously, he then went up back to 185 in Vegas a month later and defeated Gerald Meerschaert with just one punch inside, 30 seconds, I think it was. He's only had 4 minutes 28 octagon time, so he's not even completed the first round, and he's had 3 wins in 2020 in the space of 3 months it was, I think, 4 months tops for him. Obviously, the strike differential that he's faced is absolutely phenomenal as well. I think he's around 190 strikes to 2 landed on him, which is absolutely phenomenal for Hamza Chimaev, and he's really put himself in there. And the fact that he hasn't fought Leon Edwards, because I thought had he beat Leon Edwards in December, on December 19th on that card before it got cancelled, about, I thought he would have been Fighter of the Year. He would have been my nominee for Fighter of the Year because of the way he's coming and blowing everyone apart. Obviously, that had some some hiccups, whether Figueiredo lost his title at 256, which of course he didn't, or it would have been 255 at the time, I think. No, definitely 256 was the fourth fight. And obviously, if Kevin Holland had lost his fight, I thought those three were very much the front runners for Fighter of the Year this year. But obviously, going back, reflecting a lot more, and that puts us on to number 4. Israel Adesanya, of course, last year's Fighter of the Year. I think it's not his fault that he's dropped down a couple of picks this year. He's had a fantastic, 2 defenses of this title. The defeat against Paulo Costa was absolutely tremendous, perfection. You could say in his performance, Paulo Costa was coming in there, the big muscly guy, almost bullying Israel Adesanya, who was very quiet in the build-up to that fight. Albeit they had quite a respectful, in some respects, back and forth in the build up to that fight. But obviously the first one back at 248, the last event with crowds in for the UFC and MMA at least. Actually, no, pardon me, Bellator and obviously Cage Warriors had fans in attendance before that, or after that, should I say. But yes, to the UFC at least. That Yoel Romero fight, those two didn't quite perform as we were expecting, especially after the co-main event between Zhang Weili and of course Yoni and Jacek, who we'll be talking about in the top 5 fights of the year at least, because I think that was either 1 or 2. But yes, Israel Adesanya 2 title defenses, defeated Yoel Romero in which wasn't the best performance, but he did what he had to do on the night. Romero is explosive, is quite dynamic in the way he fights. He stood there for the first 2.5 minutes, hadn't thrown a punch, hadn't really made a foot forward. And I think he was trying to trap Adesanya into that sort of false hope of being a bit too confident, trying to show off, and Romero can explode when he wants to. He did catch it, Adesanya, of course, and he rocked Adesanya a little bit. Now Adesanya, having probably the experience from the Gastelum fight, Anderson Silva maybe, And the Whittaker fight, and obviously Marvin Vettori took him full distance, equally as Gastelum did. But I think, maybe a younger Adesanya or an Adesanya without that experience would have lost that fight. But he kept it controlled, and he made his first title defense in good fashion, and then he obviously went on, made his second defense on Fight Island against Paulo Costa, and this was a much more established Adesanya, an Adesanya performance we've almost come expected of, the likes of Derek Brunson, that Robert Whittaker, who took the title off, of course. Those sort of performances are what we've become known for Stylebender for, and he's moving up to fight Jan Blachowicz for the light heavyweight title, so maybe next year, he recaptures that form as fighter of the year, perhaps, if he beats Jan Blachowicz, makes a defense either side of 185 or 205. He's calling up that pound for pound list, of course, as well. So yes, he's my fourth fighter of the year, and it's only because of him fighting twice a year. I think last year, because he fought 3 times a year, I think that for me has a little bit more weight through it. That's why I haven't put Amanda Nunes in this list, because I think, and same with Khabib, because they only fought once a year, albeit not their fault, due to circumstances here and there that are unable to be given to him. But I think for fighter of the year, you need to be fighting at least 3 times, or at least twice in highly anticipated fights, with it being a title bout, of course. Which is why at number 3 I've got Valentina Shevchenko. She put on 2 fantastic dominant displays against Hamza Maia at the end of the year, and obviously Katlyn Chookagian at the start of the year, which you almost forget happened. You think UFC 249 was probably the first event of the year, and we went from there. But there was 6 or 7 events before this whole COVID pandemic, and gave us, obviously Conor McGregor's return, John Jones versus Dominic Reyes was in February too. But Valentina Shevchenko, on that night with John Jones, she defended her flyweight title, of course, against Katlyn Chookagian with a TKO at UFC 247. Then moved on, and we had flyweight night in November at UFC 235, where she put on a very gritty performance against Jennifer Maia. It's very similar to the Adesanya 2 title defenses, I guess. You got the demolition between Katlyn Chookagian and Paulo Costa for the champs, with all due respect to the challengers, and then on the other side you've got Romero and Jennifer Maia, a bit more gritty, a bit more a bit more of a driven performance, you could say, just to get the job done. Because Jennifer Maia came out in that first round and that second round, looked like she was going to cause a bit of an upset, but then the champion, she took over from that fight and put on a very good performance. And I think it got a fight of the night, I believe, and it was a fight of the night worthy performance of both of them. And she set herself up for an incredible 2021. Obviously, we've got the likes of Joanne Corderwood, Cynthia Calvillo, Jessica Andrade, probably going to be fighting for the title next after defeating Katlyn Chookagian, I believe. And it's going to be a very good year, I think, for flyweights. Now, whether we see her face someone like Zhang Weili or move up again to face Amanda Nunes, who's lackluster on challenges at the moment, we don't know. But you're probably looking at outside of her division for her next fight, or at least her biggest fight in 2021, you could say. And that moves us on nicely to number 2. And it's Kevin Holland, 5-0 in 2020. He had a phenomenal year, especially at the back end of the year. Fought 4 times in 4 months, August, September. I think he fought twice in August, actually, September, and then obviously December. October, he fought, of course. But he looked phenomenal, didn't he? That last performance against Jacare, he knocked him out from being on bottoming guard, and that knockout is being talked about as one of the knockouts of the year. He also defeated the knockout of the year, probably eventual winner in Jacqueline Buckley, of course, who beat him in Kasengane. He knocked out Jacqueline Buckley, Kevin Holland. So it shows where he is. He's now ranked in that middleweight division as well. He's looking to take some time off to build his size up for that division, because he is a little bit small. A bit like Adesanya coming in at 183, 184 on fight nights, or on weigh-in, should I say. But you're looking at him going, they put some size on. He's 15th now. He's got some, he's already beaten a legend, Jacare. He's got Derek Brunson coming up in March. He's still looking for fights in January and February. And of course, he put his hand up for that fight against Leon Edwards. Now, Khamzat Chimaev isn't fighting, but it looks like to me and to the wider scout that Dana White is pushing that fight back and booking Khamzat Chimaev and Leon Edwards at a later date, which I really feel for Leon Edwards for. But, 5-0, I think he's only the 5th or 6th fighter in modern day UFC history to have gone 5-0. Obviously, I think Cowboy's gone 6, or had 6 fights in a calendar year. He's had 5 fights in a calendar year, of course. Kevin Holland, Anthony Hernandez, he beat the Dentist and Darren Stewart, which was a fantastic fight. Potential fight of the year candidate, you could say, as well, because those two went back and forth. It was a split decision, I believe, on the night. And again, you didn't know which way that was going. He did get it. And obviously he then beat Charlie Ontiveros with, again, a very impressive finish. And he's looked phenomenal. And, the fact that, he's number 2 on this list, I was very close to putting him number 1. And that's where our number 1 does come in, because it could only be one man. The flyweight division savior in Deiveson Figueiredo. Many people think that, Henry Cejudo was the savior of the division. The messenger, he defended that title from TJ Dillashaw after beating Demetrius Johnson, of course. But I think Deiveson Figueiredo has probably done more for the flyweight division in the past 12 months than Henry Cejudo might have done, because Deiveson Figueiredo is an absolute superstar right now. And, he came into this year as a bit of a heel, a bit of a, people didn't want to see him win because obviously he was fighting Joseph Benavidez, the nice guy of the UFC. We have a lot of respect for Benavidez, a legend, someone who's always been close to that title but never quite got there. And obviously Figueiredo on the first attempt missed weight. He beat Benavidez very convincingly after an unfortunate clash of heads. And you're thinking, is he going to play this heel role? Is he going to come out and, almost say, I beat the nice guy of the UFC, come and get me? He didn't. He went back. He made weight for the second attempt, and obviously we had the same result. He put Benavidez to sleep, and, became the rightful heir. He became the rightful king of the flyweights. And I think for him, he then went on to beat, obviously, Alex Perez in the first round at UFC 255, and obviously the split draw with Brandon Moreno at UFC 256, the quickest turnaround between champion and challengers at just 21 days. So he's had a phenomenal year. And I think there's a superstar in him. The fact that, we've got the likes of Cody Garbrandt, and we're thinking that's going to be a good fight. TJ Dillashaw's coming back. I don't know if he wants to be at bantamweight or flyweight. Obviously, they'll, the whole trouble with it in the flyweight got him obviously suspended. I don't think he wants to try, almost rectifies his own mistakes and have another clean attempt at 125. I don't know. But there's some fights down the throw. Henry Cejudo, maybe. There's people thinking, is he going to cut back down to 125? He's going to come out of retirement and face Figueiredo and maybe, reclaim his kingdom as he left it, maybe. But I think Figueiredo, definitely fighter of the year. He's got a fight of the year contender. Obviously with Brandon Moreno, that Alex Perez fight that he had was phenomenal as well. And obviously beating Benavidez, he's had 4 title fights this year. And I think that for me alone is enough just to put yourself on the pedestal for fighter of the year. And I think that's he's the only one who deserves it. I don't see too many others deserving of the accolade this year, just because of the body of work that he's put on. 3 wins and a draw, 3 very dominant wins as well at that, and a draw without a groin kick probably would have been turned into a win on the night. So yes, Figueiredo is my fighter of the year. Make sure to let me know your fighter of the year nominees in the comments down below, and who you thought was the ultimate fighter of the year, you can say, for the UFC. Make sure to hit the subscribe button. Make sure to like and follow, of course, on Facebook and all the social medias that will be linked in the description down below. And I'll see you guys in 2021.